early adoption of SMS. I don't really understand why it only started a year ago or a year and a half ago. Like these tools have been out there for a while now. Like why were they not being used 7 years ago, 6 years ago? Um, and so just trying to going back and not being so focused on what's being currently done, trying to think about like what's going to be popular in a year or two from now, and how can we like differentiate our brand from a communication standpoint, whether it's different channels or different content, and just experiment with a lot of different things.
You are listening to the Messenger Mastermind podcast, a podcast that provides actionable tactics for quickly growing e-commerce companies to profitably scale their business. The strategies shared in this podcast are implemented daily by companies generating millions of dollars in revenue each year. Our goal is to help you build long-term profitable relationships with your customers.
Q4 is the busiest time for e-commerce brands. And if there's one thing that rings true year in and year out, you have to grab shoppers' attention quickly. SMS makes it easier than ever to connect with customers through their phones. Trusted by brands like Brooklinen, Native, FanJoy, and more, Postscript is the go-to text message marketing platform for brands on Shopify and Shopify Plus. Learn more and get started with a free 30-day trial at postscript.io. Welcome to another week's episode of the Messenger Mastermind podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy Horowitz, and today I'm joined by another incredible guest, someone who's going to really help you ramp up for not just the holidays, but everything ongoing this year. So I'm not going to ramble on. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce Brandon Amoroso, the founder and CEO of Electric Marketing. Brandon, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for making the time. I know that this time of year is absolutely insane, so I really appreciate you jumping in. And I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about. I already have a bunch of notes pre-written, so that always means that I'm going to have a bunch of notes after as well. So before we dive into it, how'd you get into this crazy game of e-com?
So I started working actually back in high school for a direct-to-consumer wine company based out of Santa Monica. There were about 4 team members at the time, and I got the standard like high school intern role where manage some of the social media accounts, like basically run around trying to do a bunch of different things. I ended up spending a little over 4.5 years there over the course of high school through college, and actually took a gap year to work there full time as like a junior online media manager. And they grew from about 5 team members to right now where they're at about 85. So I was able to sort of see what that growth looks like from a direct consumer e-commerce perspective, and wear a bunch of different hats that wouldn't have been available to me in like a more standard role if I wouldn't have worked at a larger company. So about sophomore year of college, I left working there full time, and I started to freelance for Shopify businesses in and around the LA area. Really 1 or 2 person shops that would be at fairs like Renegade Craft Fair, where they're like artisans or makers. And so they have a Shopify website, but that's not their bread and butter. They know how to make something really unique and cool. They really have no idea how to market it online. And so I helped them with SEO and content, some basic email marketing, and really just tried to build out some case studies. So I was working with them for free or for like product, and just trying to build sort of a base of results that I could go out to larger clients with. Fast forward to the end of college, I got it to a point where I was able to hire 1 full-time person, and then just haven't looked back since then. So that's a little bit over 2 years ago from now. And now we're a team of 30 based out of San Diego, really focusing solely on Shopify e-com. We hone in on 3 main performance marketing channels, and then we have a design and development team that supports us to sort of come full circle there. But yeah, that's sort of the quick and dirty background.
Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to take one quick tangent just because I thought about this a lot when I was in high school / early college. What was it like taking that gap year? Because this is something I personally really wanted to do but never pulled the trigger on, to go work for a startup and then go back to college.
So it wasn't intentional. I was supposed to go to a small school in Indiana to play basketball, and I was there for about a month and a half, but broke my ankle. And then once that happened, it was probably mid-October that first semester. It's like, I don't really want to be here, especially if I'm not going to be playing basketball. So at that point, I withdrew and went and worked full time. So it wasn't like a traditional gap year. I didn't actually want to do the gap year. I was ready to get through college as quickly as possible and like start working. So I sort of fell into that gap year. That being said, it was invaluable experience for me, and I would not have sort of done it any other way going back.
Yeah, I mean, now it kind of sets you up for now what's become a very successful agency. Also, just one other quick side tangent. What position did you play in basketball? I was a center all through like JV and varsity in high school.
Point guard, always valuing the assist over actually scoring.
Nice. Okay. Probably pretty emblematic also of what you do day to day now. Cool. Okay. So started back then, have grown it since, really built out the agency, and then you're focused on three performance marketing channels now. So I think let's just dive right into it. Like, what are some trends that you're seeing of brands that are really taking off, really doing well? What's kind of the things that they're doing, and maybe also some of the things that they're avoiding?
Yeah, so definitely becoming more hesitant with just dumping a bunch of money into media spend, looking at alternative ways to acquire new customers. And then I feel like it's been sort of beaten ad nauseum over the last 3 months, but really focusing on that post purchase experience for your customers that are making that first purchase, because increasing lifetime value is even more important now than it ever was before, because you can't just rely on Facebook to send you 10,000 new customers every week at a super low CPA. And so the brands that we're seeing have a lot of success are the ones who are investing really heavily into a robust subscription program, who are investing into email and SMS post purchase flows that are actually educational, nurturing, and provide value. And that's where our agency actually has sort of shifted a lot in that lifecycle marketing is like our number one focus now. And everything else that we do is sort of a complementary component to that. So that's sort of what we've been seeing over the past couple of months.
Very cool. Okay, I have two follow-ups from that. The first one is because I feel like everybody asks, what are we trying and what is working off of Facebook? So has there been any channels, any tactics that you've seen that is not just like the old school throw money at Facebook, get sales in from that top of funnel that's working? And then I want to dive into the bottom of funnel.
Yeah. So for top of funnel, we've been trying to experiment with like on platform conversion events so that Facebook is actually seeing all of them and can optimize against it. So we've been doing some lead gen ads that just dump emails right into Klaviyo flows that we have set up or Klaviyo SMS flows that we have set up. And so we're acquiring the phone number for that particular lead. It just takes it automatically from Facebook and drops it in. And so we've had a lot of success with that. And so like before traditional, you just send to the traffic objective or the conversion objective. Now it's just really not how we can be successful on Facebook. So we've migrated a lot of our spend into areas like that. Started to do other things like Octane AI quizzes. So dropping them on like a landing page that will send them through that experience. And then all these landing pages that we're building, we're putting on subdomains as well, whether it's on like a Webflow or an Unbounce, because for the Shopify stores, no matter what, it's always going to be slower than if you build it on a subdomain that doesn't have any of the JavaScript that comes along with these other various apps. And then we'll put Hotjar onto those landing pages so we can see how people are interacting with them. And we'll also have exit intent pop-ups too, powered by like Attentive or Klaviyo. So that if you do try to leave that page before converting, we're offering you some other sort of high value offer that will get you to give us that email or phone number. But it all really centers around like how can we get that email or phone number, and really most importantly the phone number, because if we have the phone number, we know that we have a very strong chance of converting you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I want to just dive into that right now because I feel like this is also a pretty hot topic. Are you a email first or phone number first?
Phone number, because we'll get the email when they check out is how I look at it.
Got it. Okay, so we're driving all top of funnel. We're grabbing phone numbers at top of funnel, nurturing them down, and then we grab email conversion and then run with both post purchase.
Yeah.
Okay, hot take. I feel like I might be the only other. I recorded an episode with my co-hosts Mark and Ben a couple of weeks ago, and they're the only other company I know that's running SMS first. So really excited to see that trend. And then I totally agree on the in-platform conversion. We've seen a ton of success just even doing straight lead capture to SMS and then nurture there as well. But I want to dive into more because I think it's something that the people who know it really well, and it's a little bit of a secret tactic for everybody else, is that separate subdomain landing page and how you really run ads to that. So can you just quickly walk through at a really high level the user experience of how that works? Like we run ads, it's a landing page, and then the back-end configuration of how that all actually works so you can keep the whole funnel really like clean and in one manageable piece.
Yeah, so it depends on how similar you want it to look to your existing website. You could put the same header and footer in there if you want to. Typically for the header, we're just dropping the logo, and then the footer will contain some links to other portions of the website for people who want to browse more. But like we're designing a completely separate landing page that is optimized around one particular goal, whether it's getting you to take a quiz or if it's getting you to try this trial package, whatever it may be. And so we'll actually just like design those out in a Figma file and then hand it off to our development team who builds it on Webflow or Unbounce. And the reason why we build it on Webflow or Unbounce is because it doesn't have any of the Shopify apps or JavaScript or the low. It basically just loads much, much quicker than any of the standard Shopify landing pages would. So that's why we put it off on the subdomain. In terms of setup, it's pretty easy. You just create a CNAME record and then you call the subdomain whatever you want it to be. So most of the time it's try dot or experience dot or buy dot and then your domain. And that's where we just set up the ads to go to. So it's no different than running the ads to your own website. You're just changing out the URL that you drop into Facebook or TikTok or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And if you're spending a significant amount of paid media, I just highly recommend doing this strategy no matter what your objective is, because it makes everything so much more efficient. So that's really interesting.
And it's templatized too. So once we have one set up for one of our clients, we can repurpose it very easily to experiment with different offers, different call to actions. And then it's a lot easier to control just like one landing page experience versus dropping somebody on a website and not having any control of where they're going to be going. So it's a lot easier to optimize with like a Hotjar than it would be if you just drop them on the homepage.
Yeah, definitely. Because then also you got to get into the like brand political battle about what does and doesn't go on the homepage versus a landing page. You can basically do whatever you want with as long as it converts. The other cool thing that I think about is especially also for brands with multiple use cases for similar product or similar product categories, you can just clone it and then just reposition it so you can run your, like I think of Arm & Hammer, right? And you can run your laundry ads to one landing page and you can run your baking soda ads to another and you can run your toothpaste to another, but it's basically the same thing. You just customize some of the content and some of the creative that goes on that page, and it's so effective. So then you're then teeing that up to automated SMS and email to nurture them down. Do you all trip different flows based on which landing pages or traffic sources people are coming to?
Yeah, so we'll have a different pre-purchase welcome flow and also a different post-purchase flow. So like if we're running a sampler pack campaign for a brand, there's a unique post-purchase flow that is only specific to them to get them to come back and make that second purchase. You could just drop them into your regular post-purchase flow, but depending on like the intro offer or whatever it may be, you may want to invest in a customized post-purchase flow for that particular cohort. And then for some of our landing pages, we're not capturing email and SMS from the start, so we don't need a welcome flow for them. We just have like that custom post-purchase flow.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I think that's such an underrated tactic because it makes everything more effective. It makes the engagement of the emails more effective. It makes the relationship start off in a better perspective, and it converts better. And it's definitely one of those things that you need a little bit more bandwidth to be able to set those up, but those are super effective. So then,
and if you look in the Facebook ads library at any of the brands that you know are good at paid ads, almost all of them are running a portion of their ads to a subdomain. And you can just go and look at that for inspiration. Like Roman does it a ton in terms of dropping people on different subdomain landing pages. So you don't really need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to go look at what the other brands are doing and sort of come up with your own custom and unique solution around it.
Yeah, definitely. And like at a certain point, a high converting landing page, there's not too many variables. There's not like too many variables you can change. It's basically the same templated structure. So it's pretty. Also, you guys should think about doing a Webflow template. Just throwing that out there. They're like starting to launch their template marketplace. That'd be a pretty good use case.
Yeah, that's something. Once we get a little bit more time, we want to do that. We want to do like a Shopify theme. We're just trying to keep. There's so much demand, especially right around now on the design and development side, because everything needs to be live, tested, and QA'd like a week before Black Friday, obviously. And so we still have brands that are coming to us like, hey, can we do this before Black Friday, Cyber Monday? And I'm like, I don't know. Like 2 weeks away. So yeah, that's where we're currently at.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to jump back to the email flow and email and SMS flows. So I know when we were talking before, you said that there are 11 flows that every brand must have. I would say that there's 7 or 8. So I really want to see what you have that I don't. So you just want to quickly walk through the whole funnel. Like what are those 11 flows? And I think we can probably dive into the ones that need more explanation.
Yeah. So for me, it's really welcome flow, abandoned cart, both checkout started and add to cart metric. So I count those as three. You have post-purchase flow, you have browse abandonment flow, you have a customer win back flow. And the reason why it's 11 is because I also touch on the recharge Klaviyo ones. So like for recharge, you're going to want a subscription started flow. You're going to want an upcoming order subscription upsell flow. And then you're also going to want a canceled subscription win back flow. So I think that got us to 9 or 10. I think I'm missing one. But I'll pull up the list and get you that last one that I'm blanking on.
Probably some sort of either like a reactivation or a VIP flow or like something high value customer related.
Yeah, so subscriber re-engagement would be one of them. And then also that's not even touching on like the loyalty flows or the referral flows, where for some of our more advanced brands, we have a flow for somebody who leaves a positive review and then they go down this whole flow that tries to get them to refer friends. That's automatically triggered because Akendo is passing over that review rating to Klaviyo, and then we send them down an email and SMS flow. And then you also have you have your monthly loyalty point reminder flows that go out so that we're telling people, hey, you've got 1,000 points. That's your September summary. What are you going to do with them? Here are some cool things that you can redeem for. So it goes a little bit beyond just like those standard templatized ones.
Yeah, definitely. It all depends. So there's also another really interesting piece that was kind of like starting to emerge when I was really in email probably 4 or 5 years ago, but now it would almost consider to be table stakes of like enabling the tech stack throughout your entire flows. So how do you think about that? Like, how do you connect I mean, obviously everybody has integration, so it's simple to connect everything, but more from the user experience from that, like we used to have a huge Lucid chart of mapping out all the different user flows we had. How do you think about that? And how do you tie all those pieces together of those loyalty point pushes and the review requests and really mapping that all out so it's not just like absolute chaos post-purchase of just nine flows all overlapping each other?
Yeah. So I remembered what the other flow was. It was the price drop flow that Klaviyo recently released. So I've started to include that. But regardless, when it comes to making sure they're all in sync, it's really important that you set up exclusions within each of these flows. And the easiest example is the abandoned cart. So your browse abandonment flow is only going to trigger if you're not going into the add to cart abandon or the checkout started abandon flow. The add to cart abandon is only going to trigger if you are not in the checkout started flow. And then the checkout started flow will trigger if you haven't made a purchase. And so it's making sure you have these trigger splits and conditional splits set up properly so that there isn't a chance where you could have overlapping communication. We've seen instances before where there's brands that are sending out browse, add to cart, checkout started, like at the same time because they don't have those exclusions set up. And so it's really important to make sure that you're putting those into place. We also like to try and consolidate into one metric. Like it's not ideal to have 30 different flows. So for post-purchase, for example, we'll just have one placed order flow, and then we'll conditionally split off of what order that is. So all of our accounts will have one massive post-purchase flow that covers both first-time purchasers, people who purchase for a fifth time, people who purchase for a 10th time. And so it's easier for us to wrap our heads around just looking at that versus if we had a post-purchase flow for first-time orders, post-purchase flow for second-time orders, all in separate things because it's a little bit harder to visualize that customer journey. We were using Lucid Chart. Now I've been using FigJam more and more, which I think is still in beta, but it's a little bit simpler of a Lucid Chart. Like our email SMS team doesn't need to know what all of these different shapes and symbols mean within a Lucid Chart flow. It's not that complicated. So we've been moving more and more over to FigJam to sort of visualize what that customer experience is going to look like.
I'll have to check that out. I've been hearing good things about FigJam.
Yeah, I think if you have a Figma account, they're giving it to you for free right now, at least. So I definitely check it out.
Yeah, Figma has definitely been one of my favorite tools that I've started using in the past year. The other thing I really want to dive into, because I think this was a really interesting shift also when everybody started moving to more of the WYSIWYG diagram builders instead of the old, like, I don't know if you even use these, like the line builders in Klaviyo where you had like the lines of things and you couldn't map everything out, is this one massive flow. So basically everything is triggered based on a purchase event, basically where you can have one time purchase, multiple 2-3 time purchase, and then because I'm assuming everybody gets review requests and everybody gets loyalty points. So you're just cloning and mapping across the different, I guess, branches of those.
Yeah, exactly. So within the post-purchase flow, there's a conditional split that will be like, is this your first order? Go down this way. Is this your second order? Go this way instead. And so that's all contained within that one post-purchase flow. For the review request, we have like that's a very specific individual email flow. And so we'll have it be has not left a review in the last 90 days and has not received this email flow within like X number of days to make sure that people aren't getting that over and over again. And we also have the time delay set up so that like you would never receive the review request and a post-purchase flow email on the same day, because we could turn on smart sending and just leave it up to that, but we want to make sure everybody's receiving the communications that we have set up. So like there's no way to get around having to know the time delay between some of these flows that just can't be combined together.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. So review request is a separate flow, but everything post-purchase related lives into one mega flow.
Yeah, exactly. There's some things that just cannot be like put into the same flow, where like if you have a successful referral, for example, that's a specific metric in Klaviyo, and like that's fine that it lives by itself because there'd just be no way or really no reason to put it into the post-purchase flow.
Right. And that's something that, yeah, it's a solo event that you can track by itself. And you just have to, it's one of those things you have to keep in your head of the timing of, okay, the post-purchase flows go out on these cadences. So we shouldn't drop this until that time. So I really want to dive a little bit more into how are you getting all of these contact numbers and how are you getting all of it. So we talked about the like lead gen from paid, directly from paid, from the subdomain. What else are you finding is a really effective way, and just my preference is always SMS, to really capture that contact info, especially top of funnel, or maybe even post-purchase? I think there's a lot of creative ways to do it as well. Like what's a really great way to just start to build the list a lot more? I feel like, especially for SMS, that's becoming a much bigger topic this year.
Well, like for all of our brands that use Klaviyo for email, we'll do a conditional block within the campaigns that we send out that will only show to people that aren't subscribed to SMS. So like if they click on that link, it'll take them to a landing page that'll give them $5 off their next order or whatever it may be if they sign up for SMS. So like that's evergreen lead capture that will live within the campaign template. That's only going to show to people who aren't subscribed to SMS. We'll also tease upcoming and like new product releases with SMS lead capture. So we'll drop it on SMS like a day or two before. And so we'll send out an email 4 days before it's coming and say, hey, go sign up for SMS because this is going to be the way that you get exclusive access to this drop that's coming in X amount of days or whatever it may be. So we're constantly pushing the email list into SMS to grow that. And so that's really effective when a brand has 100,000, 500,000 email contacts and they come to us and they have nothing on the SMS side. Like just start pushing the email contacts into SMS. And that's a great way to start to grow that list.
Yeah, I mean, the product launch strategy is our personal favorite. It's also shocking that as soon as you guys do it a day or two before, we found that you can also just send the SMS like a couple of hours before, and it gets the exact same engagement and the exact same efficacy. And it's also great for social channels. We found it to be super effective to get people off of organic social and into an own channel that way as well, especially with the keyword to opt-ins. So those are really great.
The link click to the text message thread with the language already there to the short code is really powerful. It's something we roll out for all of our brands. We'll also do like QR codes in boxes as well. So for our coffee client, we have it set up in Shopify Flow that based off of some criteria, you're either going to be marked as like a one-shot first-time customer, a subscription customer, or a subscription recurring order. And so you'll receive different inserts in your package depending on what that is. So all of our one-shot first-time customers receive an insert with an SMS QR code that if they scan it, it'll give them X percentage off their first subscription order or Y percentage off their next one-shot order. And so we're getting them opted into SMS that way as well. We also did a cool thing. This was with Twilio though, with off-limits cereal, where each one of their cereal boxes has a different character and there's a QR code on the box. And so when you scan the QR code for that box, you start to have like a conversation via conversational flow triggers with this particular character. So it's like, hey, like, do you want to listen to my YouTube channel, or do you want to do this? And then like you just sort of go down these different flows. And so we're getting SMS opt-in from retail with that.
Yeah. And then to me, that's where this is all going, is that like just choose your own adventure where I opt in from something and then it's a quick conversation that just drops me down. Because then you can also probably very interesting and creative follow-ups from each of those characters, which anybody could do this. Like you don't need to have a brand character. We've done this a lot with different teammates where like Maria will send this type of message and Jack will send that type of message and James will send the other type of message, and it works really well. And it's incredible how much engagement, especially with replies, that drives for just really any brand. I haven't seen it be unsuccessful yet.
Well, especially when you're a smaller brand, you have the time, and you should be investing the time in like actually replying to these people or to your customers if they do engage. Like you don't have to get crazy and have it be some automated campaign. Like we just sent out an email yesterday. It was a simple text-based, did an A/B test where one is from the founder and one is from a customer like success manager or whatever we called it. And then there's no automatic reply set up, because if there's a reply, we want someone on their team to go ahead and start to engage with that person. Because when you're a smaller brand, like you have to do that stuff to be able to grow effectively. So it's not like it has to be automated or anything like that.
Yeah. And I feel like with the help desk tools at this point, like especially Gorgeous, you can route it all into one place, that it's a little bit more manageable for your team to just handle that volume. But yeah, I think there's so many things like that. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you is, before this, you said that every brand needs an app. I would love to learn more about that hot take and why you think now is I feel like it was really hot 5 to 10 years ago. Everybody was building an app. It's kind of cooled down a little bit. So I'd love to know kind of what's swinging back that you're seeing of why brands should be getting an app for their store or for their community.
It's just so easy now. Like it doesn't cost $100,000 to have an app anymore. Like we'll set up our clients with TapCart, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks at most to get them up and running on iOS and Android. And then we basically treat the app like an even more exclusive version of SMS, where in terms of priority, it goes app, then SMS, then email. Because if we have you on the app, those push notifications are free. And that starts to become an issue with larger brands with their SMS lists sending out campaigns, because a campaign can cost you $10,000 or $5,000 at that larger size. So if you can get one of those loyalists onto the app instead, drop exclusive content there, send out push notifications there, those are free. And then the conversion rate that we see on the apps are significantly better than on the Shopify mobile websites, just because of the speed of the app. And so that's why we've started to onboard more and more of our brands onto that, because costs decrease significantly. It plugs directly into your Shopify inventory. It's a really easy way to start to drop like exclusive content on that channel. And then you can even start to experiment with like app download campaigns via paid advertising, which we haven't gotten too much into yet, but it does open up like another avenue there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're treating it almost like another marketing channel instead of a separate sales channel. Because I feel like that was the route everyone went down the last time that it was tried. It was like, it's going to be a new sales channel, it's going to do all these other things. Whereas it sounds like you're really using it more to get that mobile push notification and just to use it as kind of like a subdomain, honestly, like kind of just like a separate sales channel that all funnels back to the main site.
Yeah, exactly. And it's less about like customer acquisition and more about increasing customer lifetime value and getting our loyal customers onto the app so that we can give them like exclusive experiences and take the conversation off of email and SMS, which is a lot easier to, like, there's a lot more steps to get rid of an app than there is necessarily to just unsubscribe from an email list.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's so interesting. Okay. Yeah. And then you run it like lead gen. So what are some good examples of exclusive content that you found to be effective for the app?
So the same content that would apply for like lead capture on a website can apply for the app as well. It depends on who you have with the brand. Like if you have a celebrity brand, you can do celebrity exclusive content on that app, which is always great because like you have your loyalist fans who really want to get that exclusive content. And so they'll go to the app for that reason. Other things, depending on the brand, like if you're a consumable brand, you can do recipe drops and stuff like that, So like the 50 recipes that you need for this Thanksgiving season or whatever it may be, some sort of PDF that's only accessible to app subscribers. And it doesn't always have to be content either. It can be promotion or product. So putting a product that is an app exclusive product, that's been really successful in the past in terms of increasing app downloads. But like you could sell out of a product before it even makes it to your real store if you drop it on the app and then do it exclusively via SMS. It might not even make it to to the email campaign.
Right, which is always nice. You can save some money there. And yeah, it's so interesting. It sounds so we've been dabbling with a community app, not really so much for shopping, but more essentially migrating a Facebook group onto an app instead. But it's so interesting. It's like it's literally just the same as any other marketing channel. Like you just drop good content, early access to stuff. It's the same lead magnets that you'd use anywhere. You just get them there, and then I'm sure you'll see a lot of migration. One thing I would be interested in, I don't know if you have done any testing, is does it make them more or less engaged in the other channels? Like what we found is the people who went from email or social to SMS and then to a Facebook group or to the app got more engaged in all of them. But I wonder if the app is kind of like that one channel to rule them all, where you're actually like you're getting so much engagement from the app that they either stop checking or check the other channels less frequently.
Well, it also depends, like if you have it set up so that you're not, like let's say you're sending out a campaign on Wednesday and you're going to send an email, SMS, and push. Like we're not going to send that campaign to somebody who's subscribed to the app, both via push, email, and SMS. Like that would be overwhelming. So like we'll have a cascade where if they don't respond to the push, maybe we hit them with the email the next day or the SMS the next day. So like it's all, you have to decide what is the priority for you in terms of the channel communication. Do you want to give priority to the app? Do you want to give it to email? Do you want to give it to SMS? Because you don't want to just like blast out campaigns across all of these different channels to somebody who's subscribed to each one of those methods. And so that's important to think about as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll disagree with you with a little bit there. Depending on what the event is and depending on how important it is, we actually find that the cascade, even throughout a day of starting something at like 9 a.m. and then cascading all the way to 6 p.m., will be super effective as long as you have the if purchased removed from segment flow in each one. Because nobody who purchases like, all right, it's like, all right, I got it. I heard you guys. But that's really interesting. There's one other thing to me, what's going to be most interesting is seeing how you can tie all those things together long term to drive that additional engagement. I know you're incredibly busy. So right before we wrap up, my last question for you, what are some, just knowing everybody's heading into BFCM, what are some last minute tips, tricks? I'm also just kind of using this for my own personal use as well. Like what are some last minute advice that you would give if somebody has just a little, like maybe 5 to 10 hours in the next week to set something up that will be a big impact for them over the holiday season?
It sounds kind of basic, but like go place an order on your website, like a one-shot order, and then go place a subscription order and look at each of the, look at the experience for each one, because we do audits all the time. Like we audit any brand before we start to work with them. And you'd be surprised at how some of the largest, like most robust e-commerce brands that are out there have glaring gaps in the checkout process and sort of just the user experience going from first landing on the website to checking out. And so just go through that process because you're going to see things that just don't make sense. And then make sure that's fixed and rectified before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And they'll be obvious to you. Like we don't have like an in-cart upsell here, or our post-purchase experience doesn't make sense because you've already created an account, but then we're sending you an email to incentivize you to create an account. So go through it as if you were like a net new customer to the brand. Go through your website experience and see if there's any gaps there. You'll be surprised at what you'll find. And then the other part would be just like look at your post-purchase experience, specifically people who make that first order. You should have anywhere from 10 to 15 emails in that post-purchase flow for those first-time purchasers over the course of 45 to 60 days that are going to go out automatically after they come in and make that first purchase on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So you can repurpose past campaigns that have done well if you don't have the time to do it like net new for that flow, and just drop them in there and make sure that that's set up for success before you get all these new customers on Black Friday.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's such a sprint, but the game is not over after a holiday is over, like that's when it all begins. So definitely make the most of it. The other thing that I learned the hard way is ask some of your team members also to smoke test the website and like go through it and place some test orders. You will always naturally have some like blinders on and what you think the experience is. And it was helpful because like I tested it 3 times and I sent it to a couple of teammates back when I was running a website, and they were like, hey, like I can't click this one button. And I was like, what are you talking about? And like, they just went through a different user flow and they were like on a different device and I had tested it through. So I totally, that one, especially also just do it with enough time that you can actually make an update. That was the big mistake I also made is I did that test way too soon to actual launch, which was definitely a mistake I don't recommend anybody else makes. Okay. So in wrapping up, I'd like to ask everybody a couple questions. So a couple quick fire round questions for you. What's one piece of content that you recommend everybody listening consume? It can be anything you want, a book, blog, podcast, video. The only rule / caveat is that it can't be your own.
That was going to be my first question. We could send them to that 11 Flow Klaviyo video that I set up. Oh man, what would be the one piece of content? I think I wrote a book like a year ago or a year and a half ago called Building a Brand Story. And so like I'm super skeptical about like books just to begin with, because I feel like a lot of them are kind of fluffy and don't have any actionable takeaways. But with that book, I ended up with like 6 pages of notes that I was able to take and utilize for Electric in terms of everything from like website to brand positioning to just like trying to think about detach yourself from your brand and think about it from somebody who has no idea like what the hell this thing is and try to understand what they're experiencing. So that was really invaluable for me in terms of sort of shaping the Electric brand, how we want to position ourselves. Like before we used to be very much so all over the place. Now it's very focused. Like we do these 3 performance marketing things, design and development helps support them. We have this Electric process that if you sign on with us, we know what the first like 90 days are going to look like. All of that sort of was jump started by reading that book and just trying to detach myself from the brand and all the innate knowledge I have about it. And this also applies for all the e-commerce brands that we're working with as well. So I'd give that a read.
Yeah, I feel like that's all the pro marketers I know, that's their favorite book, and that's the book that they usually drop in there. Okay, so my next question, if you could go back all the way to when Brandon was just starting working for the D2C wine store, what's the one lesson you know now that you would really impress upon yourself then?
I don't know, just put every store on Shopify. Don't use custom e-commerce technology. No, I think it would be, So what's the one lesson I would put upon myself just starting out over there?
Yeah, like if you're going to do it all again, what's one lesson you would want to make sure that take 2 you really nailed?
So I think, just like early adoption of SMS. I don't really understand why it only started a year ago or a year and a half ago. Like these tools have been out there for a while now. Like why were they not being used 7 years ago, 6 years ago? And so just going back and not being so focused on what's being currently done, and trying to think about like what's going to be popular in a year or 2 from now, and how can we like differentiate our brand from a communication standpoint, whether it's different channels or different content, and just experiment with a lot of different things. A very simple example is like ebooks. Like for some reason, there's a lot of people who don't think ebooks work with an e-commerce website. But that's just like not the case. And so just like test that and see if a percentage off versus an ebook converts better for your brand. So that's what I would go back and tell myself.
Nice. Okay. And my final question, if anybody wants to learn more about yourself or Electric Marketing, where should they head?
So LinkedIn is going to be the best place. You can just reach out to me there, or you can email me at brandon@electricmarketing.com, or just go to our website and that little chat in the bottom right corner. If you start talking to it, I'll reply to you. So all 3 of those. And then YouTube as well. I try to put out some informative videos on like Klaviyo and Shopify. I've had some good conversations and met some pretty great people through that channel as well.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to another week's episode of the Messenger Mastermind podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with another e-commerce marketer. And always let us know what you think down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe. If you're looking for cutting-edge tactics and the resources that we rely on to run our businesses, sign up for our newsletter. We'll include a link down below. As always, stay confident, connect with your customers,